You might have noticed something different about Disney if you've sat down and watched, well, basically any of their films over the past 6 or 7 years. Something has changed. Disney has obviously bought their way into a business monopoly, and while that may or may not be its own issue, it's actually not what I think is wrong with the current state of Disney's films. In fact, I think what is wrong with Disney is a solvable creative issue. All modern Disney movies are not bad, they aren't all terrible pieces of entertainment, but I do think that there's an inherent flaw in the way they're being made. See, I recently sat down at a surprisingly empty theater and watched The Rise of Skywalker, and something quickly occurred to me. It's a movie almost entirely built upon a single word, and that word is intertextuality. And in this case, the facade of intertextuality.
I feel something.
You feel it?
Yes, I feel it.
That's the Force.
Really?
Wow, it must be really strong
Oh,
with
I've
you.
never felt any... Ow!
A couple of years ago, Evan Pushak wrote a great piece titled Intertextuality, Hollywood's New Currency. It's a word you hear thrown around a lot in film school, but what I don't think he knew at the time was just how out of control this idea would become within Disney's films. See, intertextuality is a big word that means something very simple. It's the shaping of a text's meaning, or in this case, films, by another text, or again, film. It's the moment that Rey sees Luke's lightsaber, or the moment that the Avengers revisit the fight in New York in Endgame. And this can be done well. In fact, I'd argue that Endgame uses intertextuality masterfully. It toys with your nostalgia and your emotions by bringing you back to the moment Hulk slams Loki in Tony's penthouse, by bringing Thor back to Asgard on the last day his mother was alive. But it's best used sparingly. It's supposed to supplement the substance of a story. It serves a meaningful function. It can and should be more than fan service, than, oh, look at that. And it's usually meant to be more than that. It's meant to matter. Fan service is cheap. Intertextuality, when used well, shouldn't be. So what happens when you try to make it the entire foundation of your film?
How you feeling?
It's an emotional story.
He found his aroma.
Disney's live-action remakes are the second biggest offenders here. By their nature, remakes are intertextual. But if you pay attention, or even if you don't, you'll notice a simple trend amongst these live-action films. Take Lion King. Almost every moment of genuine intrigue from the 2019 remake comes from cheap, emotional, intertextual moments. The, hey, I remember that from that movie I loved 20 years ago moments. The second Beyoncé begins her verse on Can You Feel the Love Tonight? The Moonlight Walk moment. These feel so wonderful because they use your nostalgia, as Evan put it, as a weapon. It's an attack on your emotions. But ask yourself this, outside of those moments, what does this movie add to the story of The Lion King? What moments stand out to you? Or take Beauty and the Beast, at times a shot-for-shot remake of the animated movie. Is it Belle's opening number, the shot of the rose, Be Our Guest? Disney's live-action remakes are so self-indulgent, they're so self-obsessed, that they lose sight of anything that isn't informed by what's already been created. They believe that if they tout the technology, if they hire Emma Watson, that we'll forget that they've already given us those moments before, or that they're only giving them to us again because they know we remember them fondly. And to their credit, they do try to extend it beyond fan service. They make them integral parts of their movies. Take Aladdin. Disney used Aladdin to veer a bit off the course from their original tale. It maintains all the things that we're supposed to love, Genie, the songs, the carpet, while only taking the mildest risks with the source material. But it does take the risks. Unfortunately, it relies on the big moments we already care about for audience reaction, almost exclusively, and then those moments end, and the film still asks us to care about the moments that aren't those, the ones that veer apart from what we know and love, and it becomes increasingly hard to do so.
Do you trust me?
What did you say?
Do you trust me?
Yes.
When you feed your audience a bunch of those nostalgic, intertextual moments, when they become nearly ubiquitous, it's incredibly easy to lose that audience when those moments end. We begin to seek out the nostalgia and resent everything that isn't. But I think it's actually Star Wars that best explains how intertextuality has absorbed Disney's own creativity, and how doing it poorly turns into simple fan service.
It didn't scare me enough then. It does now.
I don't want to spoil anything, so I won't, but what I will say is that the very thing swallowing the creativity of the live-action remakes has totally cannibalized Star Wars. This is not to say the films are bad, that's not what I'm here to talk about. What it is to say is that it's no surprise they've struggled to develop a true identity across 3 movies. So much so that what's defined the new trilogy is an internal debate over intertextuality, over fan service, and straying from the expected. In the end, for worse or for better, fan service won out. The problem is that intertextuality slowly spiraled out of control here. First, it's the Millennium Falcon, then the lightsaber, then Leia, then R2, then Luke, then Lando, and slowly the trilogy began to be a series of moment chasing, nostalgia bait. Under all of it was a great story, but when The Last Jedi tried to veer from the self-indulgent and self-reliant course, it was met with a swift reversal in The Rise of Skywalker. A conflict of identity marred again by Disney's self-obsession with the past of its IPs. Star Wars is, again, by its very nature, a series of sequels and thus can't escape some intertextual moments, but they shouldn't become a crutch. They shouldn't feel cheap or fan servicey. They shouldn't be relied on to make up for the lack of storytelling creativity. It's almost as if Disney believes that we aren't smart enough or capable enough of understanding a new story, a Star Wars whose substance isn't built on poking our emotional attachments, a Star Wars that's interested in creating new memories. And when that intertextual battle begins to come across in the films themselves, it's harder to invest as a viewer in the things you don't already recognize. It's Disney boxing themselves into a corner of their own creation. But it's not impossible for Disney to handle these things properly.
Assemble.
Endgame is a journey of intertext, a revisiting of moments of characters that add something to the story, that aren't just there to manipulate. Seeing New York through a different lens, furthering Tony's understanding of himself, his father, and his family. It's a series of moments that build up to a perfect crescendo, one that makes sense. If you isolate The Force Awakens as one film, BB-8 pulls the curtain off of R2, and that's it. We realize quickly R2 is simply there for us to go, hey, look at that. But in Endgame, it's a series of moments that matter, that make sense. Sure, some moments like Hulk in the elevator are there for laughs and a bit of Avengers nostalgia, but the story itself isn't built upon them. Cap sees Peggy again and it informs his entire character arc. Thor returns to Asgard.
Okay, there's the wine cellar. It's just down here. My father used to have this huge barrel of Iconian ale.
And the same reality coalesces. Disney is capable of creating massive films that tell interesting stories, but it's not revelatory to acknowledge that it's become easier for them to scrape the bottom. Intertextuality isn't just, as Evan put it, Hollywood's new currency, it's Disney's new game plan with everything that isn't a superhero. And actually, even the things that are. The problem is in the process. Disney is losing sight of why people watch their movies in the first place. It isn't the moments, it isn't a rose petal falling or R2 being uncovered, it's the stories. It's the journey to those moments that make those moments impactful, that make those moments matter. And Disney stopped taking the journey seriously. Maybe it's stopped taking the journey altogether and instead has begun chasing the moments. It's an attempt at intertext that reads as baseless fan service in almost every film they've put out over the past 6 or 7 years. They've forgotten what matters because the moments look great in the trailer. And because those moments look great, those moments sell the tickets. But we've grown up. We know these moments too well to be fooled by the moment they're recreating, to be tricked into feeling the same way we felt when we first experienced them. Maybe it's time Disney grows with us. That is a wrap on today's episode of Nostalgic. If you enjoyed it, as always, press that like button down below, and if you haven't yet done so, press subscribe. Also, hit that little bell next to the subscribe button. That bell is just a notification bell. Just make sure you're actually notified when I upload, which is the only real way to know when I've actually put something out. And on your screen, as always, are 2 more episodes of Nostalgia. You can click on either of these to see things I've worked on recently or in the past, and I will see you in the next one.